Friends, well, the predictions are gradually coming true that after bringing peace to the East, Donald Trump might finally turn his attention to the Russian Federation. He's doing it in his own way. We've already gotten used to the fact that Donald Trump doesn't look for traditional paths. He does everything the way he sees fit. He began putting pressure on the Russian Federation, in fact, renewing this phase with the story with the People's Republic of China. So what exactly is happening? A very important moment is happening right now. I think it could even become obviously a turning point to actually break the connection, the economic link, the support through the sale of dual-use goods, for example, which are used in components for Russian drones, to break that connection. The Russian Federation and Beijing. And this connection, it seems, is gradually, slowly but surely starting to come apart at the seams. This is already costing Donald Trump today $1.6 billion. I'll explain everything. Here's why that number. But what in fact is happening? Do you know what literally? Recently, Xi Jinping signed what is called the licensing of export products. Well, in fact, all export products that concern external players. This has affected the United States to a lesser extent. Why? Because exports between the United States and China today make up about 10% of China's export structure and of the goods and raw materials that enter the American market. So for America, this is hardly noticeable, but Trump decided to stand up for his partners from other countries. And in response to this export licensing from Beijing, he essentially signed off on 100% tariffs for the People's Republic of China. And he did this, well, almost right before, just a day or a week ahead of the personal meeting that is planned and confirmed, in fact, between Trump and Xi Jinping. These tariffs have been signed, but when will they actually take effect, if at all? Here, Trump, true to his style, also leaves room for maneuver for Xi Jinping. They will only come into effect starting from November 1st to 2025 if the situation is not reversed. On the other hand, if China revises this export licensing, then the corresponding 100% tariffs for the People's Republic of China will not be imposed. About the losses, 1.6 trillion, which has effectively been lost. What actually happened? The US stock market did not simply react. It reacted not to the signing itself, but to the question of whether Trump would sign. Here is the analysis you see now. The losses amount to $1.6 billion. By the way, Besson has already commented today in response to questions from American journalists about what Donald Trump was guided by when he made his statement and then signed these tariffs. In other words, whether this would actually harm American taxpayers, American companies, and American business. Besson said that in matters such as war and peace, Trump does not rely on the indicators of the US stock market. He relies on diplomacy, which is called peace. Stop the war. That's it. Well, he said it bluntly. By the way, that's not the only statement Besson made today. He also said that he contacted allies and believes that everything will work out. You just need to stop funding the war. He's taking a tough stance right now. This isn't just some economic story. It's about funding. With Beijing supporting the military power of the Russian Federation, the Kremlin's military capabilities. Today, Besson, the finance minister, is speaking about this directly. And it seems to me that, remember how Trump said, I'm still in the first phase. Well, friends, I think phase 2 is starting now. The rhetoric is quite straightforward, quite clear. Stop financing the war and everything will go back to normal. We'll keep trading as before. The Wall Street Journal has published an interesting piece describing the latest export operations of the People's Republic of China towards Moscow. All summer long, friends, exports have been growing at a tremendous pace in all directions, towards the European Union, towards the Russian Federation, towards other countries, to the United States. It has been declining and now makes up only 10% of the export structure, as I have already noted, so the effect of Trump's actions may be minimal. That's what the Wall Street Journal writes. But the Washington Post, on the contrary, did the math. The export of just one such item called fiber optic cables. Yes, here there is a direct correlation with the military power of the Russian Federation. Friends, in May 2025, 194,000 kilometers of these cables entered the Russian Federation from China by various routes. And that's just in May. Then came June, even more, 208,000 kilometers. The record figure falls on August of 2025. 524,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable. Fiber optics are essentially what allow Russian drones to operate and create the so-called kill zone, basically, along the front line. Yes, it's a place where not even a hair can run through anymore, as Rogozin once noted, because everything is monitored by drones. This is a technological kill zone. That's what the military calls it. So August, I'll note September as well. Well, some kind of catastrophe started in September. And do you know why? Because we, in relation to another country, obviously started to take action, and someone really wants to finally lift these tariffs. I'm talking about a country like Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan, which is located between the Russian Federation and China and serves as a major trade route for those trucks carrying dual-use goods. Look, what's happening in Kazakhstan has been going on for a week now, and it's not stopping, nor is it likely to stop. The flow of goods at the borders with the Russian Federation has come to a halt. Now, according to Russian media, the Russian propaganda media, that up to 7,000 trucks have gathered at the border. In other words, dual-use goods aren't going anywhere. The Kazakhs have set up inspections, 99% of the cargo. The inspections are related to declared items that fall under the definition of dual-use goods. So no wires, microchips, any kind of bulbs, washing machines, refrigerators, engines, nothing at all is moving anywhere, not even for motor scooters. Then Moscow propagandists like Mardan, they've already said more than once, well, why don't we just carry out a sweep in Astana right away? So Mardan saw a different reason here. But in principle, well, the tone is more or less the same. Right now, on all these propaganda resources, the Orsk oil refinery was attacked by drones. The distance from the Ukrainian border to Orsk is 1,400 kilometers. It's absolutely obvious that the drones were launched from the territory of Kazakhstan. That's the twist, you see. So the Kazakhs stopped it. The flow of dual-use goods from China, and then a drone showed up. So that's it. Now the Kazakhs are the bad guys, Well, it's obvious. For the imperial chauvinistic philosophy and worldview, it's always important to highlight someone in red with some color, I don't know, to mark enemy number one. At the moment, this enemy can change permanently. The main one is, of course, NATO, then Ukraine, and now Kazakhstan as well. So that's the issue. Isn't it time to launch a raid on the territory of independent in quotes, Kazakhstan, just like they did with Ukraine, with the goal of eliminating the threat to Russia's national security? Ideally, they should just carry out a sweep in Astana right away. And, there's still resentment lingering from that same August or September, the month when Volodymyr Zelensky met with Donald Trump in the US, and then Volodymyr Zelensky came after that to the Axios TV channel. No, sorry, it was Fox News, on Fox News. And it was there that he commented on the story about his meeting with Putin a month earlier. At that time, it was quite a relevant topic. Why doesn't Putin want to meet, instead suggesting somewhere like Moscow? So Zelensky said, no, we won't go to Moscow, but we could at least go to Kazakhstan. And then, the Mardan show started talking about cleaning up Astana from mines. So what does this basically tell us? This whole story with these trucks, including, well, at first there was the possibility of introducing 100% tariffs against Chinese goods in trade, right? Now, 25% tariffs have already been imposed on Kazakhstan, which immediately affected the flow of goods and logistics routes, because Kazakhstan, friends, does not want to play these games. There was a meeting with Ostakayev literally just a day or two ago with Vladimir Putin. And, very, yes, brief and very much so. Well, the Kremlin provided limited information. I went to the Telegram channel that's connected to the Kremlin, and it just said, well, President Putin met with President Tokayev, the president of Kazakhstan, and they talked about deepening some kind of cooperation. And I remember one statement from Tokayev back in the summer when he said, well, yes, this is already threatening us before the Americans. Of course, but we want to continue trading with the Russian Federation. Friends, this was obviously just for show, a public performance, because what we are seeing now and the way Mardan is reacting to it shows that Kazakhstan is absolutely not interested in this. So now let's turn to China and ask, is China even interested in this at all? Is it really interesting to play games, to lose money with logistics that are, well, extremely important, right? Is it really fun to play this game if the only obstacle is there? That obstacle is Putin's sick mind, which keeps telling him he needs to launch missiles at Ukraine. That's exactly what this is all about. Xi Jinping is acting for himself, not as an ally, not behaving like an ally. China has slashed its goods exports to Russia by 21%. Just like that, slashed them. You know, there's also a bit of a conspiracy theory here that what's happening at the borders in Kazakhstan is, what I mean are those lines of 7,000 trucks. Maybe all of this is also happening with the agreement of Almaty and Beijing. There's this opinion as well, and the Moscow Times is putting it on the front page. This opinion needs to be read out here. There's a very interesting comment from a Kremlin source. Yes, China is not behaving like an ally. One of the publication's interlocutors complained. Sometimes they delay our payments, sometimes they profit off us, and sometimes they simply rob us. China provides the lion's share of Russia's export revenues, and its technologies are critically important for the military-industrial complex, says another source. Without them, quote, we wouldn't be able to make a single missile, not a single drone, and the entire economy would have collapsed long ago. If they wanted to, the war would be over. That's it. That's all. A genuine thank you to the journalists at the Moscow Times. This is not a propaganda outlet. It's a bit of a different story. Of course, it's aimed at a Russian audience, but this is the answer. And this is phase number 2, which is now actually being demonstrated and launched regarding the upcoming meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping. I'm wrapping up now. Friends, will it happen? It will happen. Here, the Wall Street Journal, fresh from Middle East victory, Trump sets his sights on peace in Ukraine. Donald Trump is directing all his energy toward this. After his victory in the Middle East, that's how it's written. How is it fresh? Yes, so Donald Trump has been refreshed. It will happen. Today, Jamie Geer, the U.S. trade representative, stated that the meeting at the APEC summit in South Korea is no longer in question. Even despite the signed tariffs, which may or may not come into effect on November 11th, the meeting is not in question. So congratulations to Donald Trump, and let's hope he manages to put enough pressure on China, which essentially is the main factor today. Obviously, it's the halt, maybe not of the war itself, but definitely of the active phase of hostilities.